Hey there makers, it's Bri from Minerva. Today I am bringing you a trends video all about fabric. So I've been studying the runway and the high street, looking at this season's trends and thinking about ways that they can be incorporated into a home sewing practice. So a huge theme this year has been around specialty fabrics, and this season specifically we're seeing loads of sheers, laces, and metallic fabrics. So I've gone and picked a few of my favorites as well as patterns to pair with them to spark some inspiration around sewing up sheers, laces, and metallics. To break down this trend, we will be looking at sheer fabrics in general, but also lace specifically, as well as metallic elements in fabrics. So sheers is definitely like the broadest category. This could be any fabric with a see-through element, so ranging from like a light cotton voile to a heavy organza. There are sheer woven fabrics like chiffon, as well as knits like pointelle, jersey, or mesh. Lace does fall under the sheer umbrella, but I've given it its own place here because of how prominently it has shown up in the trends this season. So traditionally, lace fabrics feature a repeating floral or geometric motif that is either woven or knitted into the fabric. And then lastly, we'll be looking at metallic elements. So a metallic fabric could have just like a little bit of lurex thread woven in for some subtle shimmer, but we're also seeing lots of lame and sequins as well. In addition to project inspiration, I'll also be sharing some tips along the way for how to sew with some of these fabric types. Now, fabric care is always important, but even more so among these specialty fabric types. Now, before we get into project inspiration, I did want to say that I know specialty fabrics can seem either a bit intimidating or maybe impractical, but I sort of want to reframe the way that sheers, laces, and metallics can be used in your wardrobe. So incorporating trends into your sewing practice and into your wardrobe does not mean that you have to directly recreate runway or high street looks. What I really love doing is taking trend themes or details and then kind of translating them into more casual elements that are more wearable for every day. So with these projects, we're going to start with more versatile everyday vibes and then build into some bolder looks. So with that said, let's get into some sewing inspiration. So I'm starting off with a shirting fabric. So a lot of common day wear fabrics this season have been cotton and viscose voile. They've been showing up everywhere in the trends, and they're typically these really lightweight sheer or semi-sheer natural fiber fabrics. So you could include things like cotton double gauze, broderie anglaise, or burnout fabrics in this category. And first up, I have one of my favorite fabrics at the moment. This is the Meat Milk Soda Sheer Tencel Cotton. It's a really easy to wear shirting fabric with a very, very cool textural sheer design. Now it is 47% tencel and 53% organic cotton. And this is the color Cherry. I think it's a really pretty, like, warm, really well-rounded maroon. It does come in a handful of other colors though. It's very lightweight, but it's got a bit of body to it, and the texture is really dynamic with this weave and how those tencel fibers catch the light. Now, as with most tencel fabrics, you will want to use a microtex needle when sewing to avoid any snagging of the fabric, and you'll also want to use a press cloth. Yeah, it tends to shine a little bit by getting scorched from the iron, so use a press cloth to avoid all that. Now, as the name says, it is a bit sheer, but because you have this like gingham style weave, they're just like little pockets of sheerness. So yes, if you are making like a dress or a skirt, you probably want to line it, but I think on its own it would be a really, really pretty, nice, like breezy blouse. For the Soda Sheer Tencel Cotton, I have chosen the Closet Core Cielo top and dress. So the Cielo is a boxy top and shift dress with lots of different interchangeable options. So there's a short sleeve, or you can go for a dramatic lantern 3/4 sleeve. It's got some gathering at the sleeve head. And then for the dress view, there is an option to add a seam to the dress front for some unique set-in pockets. And then lastly, there are separate finishing options for the neckline, so you can really get the best finish for the type of fabric you're using. All views come with a arm side dart for bust shaping and an angled back yoke detail. The printed Cielo comes in US sizes 0 to 20, which is for hips 33 to 48 inches. And the Cielo is aimed at beginners. There are lots of helpful tips and explanations included in the instructions. And you can use a variety of light to medium weight woven fabrics for the cielo top and dress. Now, they're going to be different depending on the body or drape. So something slinky like a viscose or a silk will have a soft drapey effect, whereas something with more body like linen or cotton poplin will give the design a lot more structure. So this Tencel cotton is somewhere in the middle. It is really lightweight and floaty. It's got lots of drape, but it also has some nice body, a little bit of crispness. I think it would hold the gathers of that lantern sleeve really, really beautifully for a really nice statement sleeve blouse. Next up, I have a chiffon fabric. Now, chiffon is probably one of the more recognized fabrics within the shears family, but it's typically associated with special occasion wear. And I think that this trend of sheer fabrics at the moment is really inviting us to think of chiffon in more casual contexts. So we're thinking like blouses and day dresses. So I have picked this gorgeous Your You crinkle chiffon from the Minerva core range. It is a polyester chiffon with this really beautiful texture. And I think that this chiffon in particular really leans into some more of that versatility. It's got this crinkle texture and a matte finish to it. I have gone for the navy, but it comes in a handful of other colors as well. It is just really wonderfully soft and drapey and has a really beautiful hand to it. Now, sewing chiffon, it can take a little extra patience. It helps to use a shorter stitch length and then to start your seams with a little piece of tissue paper underneath the fabric, so your machine really has something to punch through. Then you can just tear it off when you're done. So for something more formal, you could underline this fabric with a matching lining. That would give it a little bit more stability. A traditional separate lining would play up the drape and the movement of the chiffon. But if you are really looking to hit this season's trend, you could skip the lining altogether and you would layer a blouse or a dress in chiffon over like a slip, a bralette, or a vest top. To go with the Your You crinkle chiffon, I have picked the Sew House 7 Romy dress and top. So it features raglan sleeves, it has a loose fitting bodice, and a gathered skirt or peplum. It has a really nice, like airy or dreamy silhouette. There is a seam down the center front where the neckline closes with a button and rouleau loop. The construction features French seams and bias binding for a super clean finish. The Romy comes in US sizes 00 to 34, and that is split across 2 envelopes. So the 00 to 20 range covers hips measuring 34 to 50 inches, and that one is drafted for a more straighter figure. And then the 18 to 34 range covers hips measuring 47 to 65 inches, and that one is drafted for more fuller curves. It is intended for confident beginners. The silhouette is quite straightforward, and then the instructions are very, very thorough. So this is a great skill builder pattern, whether you are a beginner or an improver. Either way, you're going to find some great finishing techniques in this pattern. So Romy is designed for light to medium weight woven fabrics. So fabrics like cotton poplin or lightweight linen will really play up the gathers, giving the peplum or the skirt a lot of volume. Tencel and viscose and other drapier fabrics will fall softer, creating a more like ethereal effect. This pattern is really great for sheers and delicate fabrics, since the construction ensures that all of those seams are going to be fully enclosed. And for fabrics that might fray easily, those bindings and French seams are going to just like lock it all in. It's going to make those seams extra strong as well as nice and neat, which is especially great for fabrics like sheers, especially this Your You crinkle chiffon. Moving on to the lacier side of sheers, I have my favorite tulle fabric to show you. Now, tulle and mesh are everywhere at the moment, and I love how they can play with volume and drape. Like chiffon, tulle is typically associated with like bridal wear, but we are seeing it used more in casual garments, so day dresses, tops, and skirts. You could layer them with jackets or chunky boots and have this like edgy glam vibe. Now I have picked this beautiful, really, really special Ayrton cotton soft tulle, and this is from our Minerva core range. And this fabric is just so special. I love it so much. It's 100% cotton, which is really unusual for tulle, but I love getting to include some natural fiber options in here. And as it says in the name, it is really, really soft. It's super drapey. When it gathers, it flows so softly. It's not going to create a ton of volume like a stiffer like tulle netting would. And then because of the weave, it does have a little bit of stretch. you would likely want to underline this fabric. So that is where you baste the lining and the main fabric together and then sew them up, acting as one piece. That's going to provide some good stability and keep this fabric from stretching out. Or if you wanted to leave it unlined, I would recommend using some light twill tape or some ribbon on the seams that you would need stabilized. This fabric would be really great for tops and dresses and skirts. For the Airton cotton tulle, I have chosen one of my favorite skirt patterns. It is the Vanessa Hansen Carrie skirt. Now I am absolutely in love with this silhouette. It is like such a modern twist with some really cool vintage elements. I love how the top of the skirt kind of pulls inspiration from classic corsetry with this V-shaped paneled yoke, and then it billows out into this very full gathered skirt. So there's two variations. There's a shorter yoke that ends at the natural waist. My favorite though has this built up extra high waist yoke with an option for a lace up back. It's such a fun way to incorporate this corsetry trend that has been going around for a while. It's really nicely balanced with that full skirt gathered on those diagonal lines of the yoke. It creates a really playful but elegant silhouette. So the Carrie skirt comes in sizes UK 6 to 32, so that covers hips measuring 30.5 to 59.5 inches. It is an intermediate pattern. You'll want to pay extra attention to getting a nice clean point at the V of the yoke, but other than that, the construction is fairly simple. Medium weight woven fabrics are best for the Carrie skirt. Because of the gathering, the amount of drape and structure will make a really big difference in the look of the final garment. So if you want to play up the drama and the volume, you'll want to go for a fabric with some body and structure, so cotton poplin, linen, organza, or satin. But if you're looking for something softer, swishier, fabrics like tencel, viscose, and silk are really good choices. I think the Airton soft cotton tulle will make for a really, really elegant, very ethereal Carrie skirt. So next I have a more casual lace fabric. So this is a sweater knit, and we have been seeing knit and crochet styles come back in such a huge way the last couple of seasons. So everything from cardigans to like handbags and palazzo pants. Lacy sweater knits are a really great way to elevate your wardrobe staples by bringing in some extra texture and detail to your comfy, cozy garments. So I have chosen the Minerva Core Range Crochet Lace Stretch Sweater Knit. It is 98% polyester and 2% elastane. It has 30% horizontal stretch and 20% vertical stretch. And I have gone for this beautiful lilac color. It comes in 11 other colors as well, and I think it is such a pretty design. To me, especially in this like lilac, it has a very retro 70s feel to it. The vintage vibe is very cool, but I think it's also very delicate and feminine. Sweater knits do require a bit more care throughout the sewing process, so unlike many knit fabrics, sweater knits like this one can fray a bit. They also tend to stretch or warp a bit. So after cutting, you will want to handle this fabric as little as possible. So to prevent stretching, you can add some fusible knit interfacing to like the shoulders and any other seams you'd want stabilized. And then the easiest way to prevent fraying would be to sew this knit up on your overlocker. You'd want to check your differential feed, avoid any wavy seams, and if you're going to use a regular sewing machine, you can add a second line of close zigzag stitches to the edge of your seam allowance. Either way, whether you're sewing on a sewing machine or an overlocker, you do want to put in a fresh ballpoint needle to prevent any snags in this beautiful lace crochet pattern. So this would be a great fabric for like a t-shirt or a sweater dress. It would make a great top, a jacket, or a cardigan. So I have picked the Tilly and the Buttons Pearl Cardigan. It is such a classic shape and a really good layering piece to go with this crocheted lace sweater knit. So the Pearl is a cropped wrap cardigan with 3 sleeve options. So you have a regular long sleeve, a big gathered bishop sleeve, and then a fun little short sleeve option. I love this. I think that more sweater and jumper patterns should include short sleeve options. They're so cute, and they're really practical for like transition weather, for chilly evenings. Anyway, the Pearl also has a casual drop shoulder and then ties neatly at the side. The neckline, the hem, and the sleeve are all neatly finished with stretched in bands. The Pearl comes in UK sizes 6 to 34, which covers busts measuring 30 to 60 inches. It is suitable for advanced beginners. Tilly's instructions always include bright, clear photographs for each step of the process, as well as helpful tips for sewing with knit fabrics. So the purl was designed for medium weight drapey knit fabrics with at least 20% stretch. So Ponte Roma, jacquard knit, French terry, and sweater knits like this are all great options. For the last of the lace projects, I am really leaning into this season's bridal trend. So white lace is not just for walking down the aisle anymore. We have been seeing so many of these traditionally like bridal fabrics used as cocktail dresses, day dresses, as overlays for blouses and skirts. So I have chosen this really beautiful corded lace fabric from the Minerva core range. It is 100% polyester with this lovely floral motif outlined in the cord, which gives it some extra definition. I've chosen the ivory colorway to really go for that bridal lace trend, but this fabric also comes in 10 other colors, so if the bridal vibe feels like a bit too much for you, you could opt for something more colorful, maybe like a soft pink for kind of a garden party look, or a sleek royal blue for a cocktail dress. The lace itself is so pretty, and it's a bit easier to sew than some of the other sheer fabrics because it is a little bit thicker. It doesn't have any stretch to it, so it's nice and stable and has a bit of body. Now, the raw edge will fray a little bit, so I would recommend stabilizing your edges before stitching and then using a sturdy seam finish like an overlocker or a French seam. This fabric would be really great for a blouse, a skirt, and definitely for a dress. For the Minerva core range corded lace, I have chosen the Chalk and Notch Shea dress. So this is a fitted scoop neck bodice paired with a full length tiered skirt. Now you can have a pretty like button down front, or you can keep it simple with an invisible zip at the back. There is also an option for a clean tank strap, or you can go for a beautiful statement sleeve. And I have to say, this is one of my favorite sleeves that I have seen on a major indie design. I just think that an elbow length puff sleeve is such a magical shape. It looks good on so many people. And then you have these sweet little pin tucks in the pleats, which are very cute. The puff sleeve itself is then gathered into a tie cuff, creating a little keyhole here. They're just really like thoughtful, small details that all work really well together, and it really sets this design apart. The Shea dress comes in sizes US 0 to 30, so that covers hips 35 to 59 inches. The pattern also includes separate pieces for 2 different bust shapes, which is absolutely fantastic. It saves many of us the chore of doing a full bust adjustment, especially on a princess seam bodice, so I love that. It is rated intermediate, so I think Chalk and Notch has some of the best instructions out there. They do a really good job of introducing more advanced techniques by breaking them down into really easy to follow steps. They've always got clear, really helpful diagrams. Now you'll want to look for light to medium weight woven fabrics for the Shea dress, as well as a lining fabric for the bodice. So recommended fabrics include viscose and tencel, cotton lawn and chambray, as well as lightweight linen. I think a sturdy lace like this one will also work nicely because it's got enough structure to hold the gathers of the sleeve and the skirt. Plus the pattern already includes instructions for lining the bodice, so you'll have help with that step as well. I also think it would be really pretty to line the bodice and maybe the main part of the skirt, but then to leave the sleeve and the bottom tier unlined for a really cool contrast moment. You could even use this scalloped edge as your hem for the skirt. I think that would be so romantic and just really beautiful. So now we are moving into metallics. There are so many cool ways to include some glitz into your garments, from just like a little shimmer to full-on sparkle. This one fits somewhere in the middle. So for this first one, I have picked a metallic faux leather. And this fabric combines a couple of big trends that we have been seeing for a while. So the first one being metallic, of course. The second being leather and leather-like garments that have been really big for a couple seasons now. And recently, metallic faux leather has really been in the spotlight, especially classic colors like silver and gold. And then on the color side of trends, we have been seeing bright, clean colors like Kelly green, lipstick pink, and cobalt blue really shining through. So instead of going for a full-on silver or gold, I've gone for a fabric that kind of hits multiple trends at the same time and feels a little bit more wearable for every day. So this is the Minerva Core range, soft faux leather in cobalt blue. It is made of 50% polyurethane and 50% viscose. So you have the faux leather side, and then it is mounted onto this woven viscose backing. So this is really nice because you have the faux leather being stabilized by the backing, and then depending on your project, it may even save you from having to line it. It is very nice and soft. Like I said, this is the cobalt colorway, but it comes in over 25 other colors, including more metallics like this one, as well as several non-shimmery shades. With the foil of the metallic, you are going to want to be very careful with pressing. So you can press the wrong side of the fabric, especially on low heat with a press cloth, but it's probably going to be best to use a clapper or a seam roller, something heavy for pressing on the outside. To reduce bulk, you can press your seams open where possible and then top stitch them to keep them nice and neatly in place. Of course, you'll want to use a leather needle and possibly even a Teflon foot for your machine if your machine foot is having to stick to this a little bit. You can try a piece of Scotch tape if your machine doesn't have a Teflon foot, or you can simply sew with a piece of tissue paper in between your fabric and your machine foot. So sewing with faux leather, it can seem like a bit of work, but I promise it is absolutely worth it since both leather and faux leather are really nice and durable, and they just have like such a signature look. So this soft faux leather fabric would be really great for jackets, a trendy waistcoat. You could even do trousers and jumpsuits, and definitely dresses and skirts. To go with the metallic cobalt faux leather, I have picked the Goldie Skirt from Style Arc. It's a really unique take on the classic slim A-line skirt. Now there's no side seams. Instead, you have this curved panel that slots into the front and back pieces, creating some really cool style lines. Both of the views of the skirt close at the front, but you can choose if you want a button placket or an exposed zip. It comes in two length options, mini and knee length. The top of the skirt is neatly finished with a waist facing. The Goldie comes in sizes 4 to 30, which is split over two sizing envelopes. So the 4 to 16 packet covers hips 32.5 to 44.5 inches, and the 18 to 30 range covers hips measuring 46.5 to 61 inches. It's an intermediate pattern. Style Arc instructions are quite light and rarely feature photos or diagrams, so you'll want to go into this project really confident in skills like sewing those strong curves, attaching a waist facing, as well as installing your choice of closure. The Goldie Skirt is designed for woven fabrics, and fabrics of different weight and drape will have very different effects. So you can go for something light like viscose or cotton lawn. These lighter, floatier fabrics will have a softer effect, but if you go for those, you'll want to go for the button-down view, as they won't be sturdy enough to hold like a metal exposed zip. And alternatively, heavier, more bodied fabrics like denim, canvas, or something like this soft faux leather are really going to emphasize the A-line structure of the design. Lastly, we're going to chat sequin fabrics. Now, sequin fabrics always come around for the winter holidays, but this year they have stuck around and I do not see them going anywhere anytime soon. So one way you can kind of gauge the longevity of a trend is to see how widespread it is. And sequins, they're everywhere. It's definitely not limited to formal wear. We're seeing lots of day wear like dresses, blazers, shorts, even active wear and sneakers featuring sequins. So for my sequin pick, I have this absolute stunner. It is the Peacock Feather Sequin Mesh, and it is part of our Minerva Core range. It is a sheer polyester mesh base with thousands of these incredible turquoise and gold sequins stitched onto it, and it creates this beautiful peacock feather motif. So there is a little bit of a horizontal stretch here. The sequins themselves add a little bit of weight to the fabric, but this mesh maintains a good amount of drape. For sewing sequin fabrics, I have a couple of tips. First, you'll want to cut on a single layer using very sharp shears or a fresh rotary cutter blade. You'll want to mark your seam allowance and then go in and actually remove some of the sequins in that seam allowance. So sewing over sequins, especially ones this dense, can be harmful to your sewing machine, so you want to reduce as much contact as possible to help with the longevity of your sewing machine. Now, removing sequins also reduces bulk in your seam allowance. My favorite way to do this is just with a little nail clipper. You just snip into the disc and then pull it away. I would recommend wearing glasses or goggles to protect your eyes if you go for this method. Alternatively, you can unpick the stitching and just glide the sequins off that way. Just be sure to tie up your threads so you don't lose any additional sequins. Now, this fabric would make such a stunning jumpsuit or formal dress, but you could also use it for something more casual like a skirt or a jacket. To go with this sequins as everyday wear trend, I have picked a bomber jacket pattern. So this is the Jolie Charlie. It's a classic bomber style with a front zip. It's got welt pockets and a front yoke with a forward shoulder seam. It hits at the high hip and it is neatly finished with ribbing at the collar, cuffs, and the waistband. The Charlie comes in both girls and women's sizes, all in one envelope. So the girl sizes are from ages 2 to 13, and then the women's sizes are US 4 to 22, which covers hips 36 to 53 inches. Now you can use either stable knits or stretch wovens for the Charlie. You'll just want to make sure whatever fabric you pick has a little bit of horizontal stretch and some drape. So fabrics like stretch denim, stretch faux suede, and Ponte Roma are classic bomber options, but I think something like this peacock feather sequin mesh would make for such a timeless statement jacket. So those are my picks for sewing up the season's fabric trends. Sheer, lace, and metallic fabrics are a great way for injecting some fresh fun into your sewing practice as well as your wardrobe. Let us know in the comments below your favorite specialty fabric, and if you have any additional tips or tricks for sewing them up, we love hearing from you and we love getting to learn together. If you're not already a part of the Minerva Maker community, consider yourself officially invited. Our goal is to connect makers worldwide through happy, encouraging community where you can share your projects and your progress. Plus, when you sign up, you can also save 5% on your next Minerva order. I hope you've enjoyed this little trend overview and are feeling confident to try stitching up some sheer, lace, or metallic fabrics this season. That's all from me today, so until next time, happy making. Bye!